You probably haven't thought about helium since your last birthday party. You know the drill: a few colorful balloons, maybe a high-pitched voice for a quick laugh, and then the balloons sag and are forgotten. But right now, in March 2026, this invisible, lighter-than-air gas has become the most precarious pillar of the global economy. It is the only thing standing between our high-tech civilization and a total systemic meltdown. Helium isn't just for parties anymore. It is the fundamental coolant for the engines of the 21st century. And the price? It just hit a level that should make every investor, every tech CEO, and every healthcare provider's heart skip a beat. The number that is currently sending shockwaves through the commodities market is $2,000. That is the current spot price for 1,000 cubic feet of grade A bulk helium. Let that land for a second. Just 3 years ago, we were looking at a mere fraction of that cost. We are witnessing a 560% jump in less than 1,000 days. It is a massive vertical climb that signals a fundamental break in the supply chain. While you might not be heading down to the local gas supplier to buy a bulk dewar of liquid helium, you are absolutely paying for this spike every single day in ways you don't yet realize. If you have looked at a hospital bill lately, specifically for an MRI scan, you have seen the first ripples of this crisis. A single MRI machine requires roughly 2,000 liters of liquid helium to keep its superconducting magnets at the near absolute zero temperatures required to function. Because helium boils off and escapes over time, these machines must be constantly topped off. It now costs a staggering $125,000 a year just to keep a single machine operational. That is a 180% increase in overhead for hospitals. We are seeing a world where life-saving diagnostics are becoming a luxury of the ultra-wealthy, not because of a doctor shortage, but because we are running out of the coldest substance on Earth. So the question remains, if helium is just for balloons, why are the world's most advanced semiconductor plants suddenly running on empty and begging for every liter they can find? To understand how we drifted into this nightmare, we have to talk about what I call the green transition paradox. It is one of those cruel ironies of modern economics that feels like a glitch in the simulation. You see, helium isn't something we can just mine or harvest on its own. It is a non-renewable byproduct of natural gas extraction. Over millions of years, the radioactive decay of uranium and thorium in the Earth's crust releases alpha particles, which are essentially helium nuclei. This gas gets trapped in the same underground pockets as methane. For decades, as we pumped natural gas out of the ground to heat our homes, we captured these tiny amounts of helium as a side hustle. But here's the catch. As the world goes green and we aggressively retire fossil fuel wells to meet climate goals, we are accidentally murdering the very supply chain that provides the helium we need for the future. We are cutting off our source of high-tech coolant in an attempt to save the atmosphere. It is a perfect structural trap. We cannot synthesize helium in a lab, at least not at scale, and once it escapes into the atmosphere, it is so light that it literally floats into space and leaves the planet forever. It is the only truly finite resource we have that we are actively throwing away. And while the supply is shrinking due to the green transition, the demand is exploding because of the AI revolution. Every single high-end AI chip, the ones powering the LLMs and neural networks that now run our world, requires a process called EUV lithography. These ASML machines are the most complex devices ever built, and they use massive amounts of helium for wafer cooling and to maintain a vacuum environment. Semiconductor consumption now accounts for 24% of the total global supply. That is a 45% surge in demand in just 2 years. We are trying to build a digital utopia, but we are dismantling the physical infrastructure required to keep the processors from melting. It's like trying to run a marathon while someone is slowly tightening a knot around your oxygen tank. But in a world of vanishing supply and infinite demand, who holds the keys to the vacuum? This is where the story takes a dark geopolitical turn. For nearly a century, the United States was effectively the Saudi Arabia of helium, thanks to a massive strategic reserve stored in an underground salt dome in Amarillo, Texas. But those days of American dominance are officially over. Today, the center of gravity has shifted to two of the most volatile and strategically complex regions on the planet, the Siberian wilderness and the Persian Gulf. This is no longer a matter of simple economics, it is a matter of national security and Cold Warfare. Look at the Amur gas processing plant in the Russian Far East. Despite waves of international sanctions and extreme geopolitical tension, the Kremlin has prioritized this facility above almost all else. They recently activated their third production unit, giving Moscow control over nearly 30% of the global helium market. This isn't just about revenue for Russia, it is a massive lever they can pull to freeze high-tech manufacturing in the West. If Putin decides to throttle the helium valves, the chip factories in Taiwan and Arizona don't just slow down, they stop. It is a kill switch for the digital age that no one is talking about. Then you have Qatar. The Qataris have invested over $30 billion into their North Field expansion, becoming the single largest source of helium for the Western world. But here is the terrifying logistical reality. 33% of the world's helium supply must pass through the Strait of Hormuz. We saw it earlier this month. When that choke point gets blockaded or even threatened, the global supply doesn't just dip, it vanishes from the spot market. We have created a just-in-time supply chain for a gas that cannot be synthesized, is nearly impossible to store long-term because it leaks through almost any container, and is produced by our greatest rivals. One technical failure in a Siberian forest or a maritime delay in the Gulf can instantly paralyze production lines from Silicon Valley to Seoul. Is this globalization of a cooling necessity a sustainable path, or have we walked into a trap of our own making? To see where this ends, we have to look back at history because it provides a perfect, albeit tragic, mirror to our current mess. In 1925, the US government passed the Helium Act. Back then, they didn't care about AI or quantum computers. They cared about military zeppelins. They saw helium as a war material on par with gunpowder or oil. They created a government-mandated monopoly and the National Helium Reserve, treating the gas as a precious national treasure that was too important to be left to the whims of the open market. For decades, that reserve acted as a buffer against price shocks and supply disruptions. But the free market fundamentalism of the late 20th century changed everything. In 1996, the Helium Privatization Act was passed with the goal of selling off the entire reserve to pay down the national debt. We decided that a strategic buffer was less important than a one-time cash infusion. Fast forward to 2024, and the US government completed the final sale of the reserve to private corporations like Messer LLC. We traded a century of strategic security for a line item on a budget sheet. And now, in 2026, we are reaping the whirlwind of that decision. Without a federal safety net, the market is completely vulnerable to private cartels and geopolitical blackmail. When I speak to analysts at Bloomberg or Industrial Info Resources, they all use the same chilling phrase: a house of cards? They are watching AI demand grow exponentially while our ability to recover helium is only increasing linearly at best. It is the 1920s all over again, but the stakes are infinitely higher. A century ago, a helium shortage meant you couldn't fly a blimp. In 2026, a helium shortage means the brain of the global economy, the data centers and the hospitals, goes dark. When the safety net is sold to the highest bidder, what happens to the stability of the life you're trying to build? So how does this actually hit your wallet in the coming months? Think of it as the invisible tax. When helium is scarce, semiconductor yields drop by 15 to 20% because the thermal management during the etching process isn't precise enough. This means your next smartphone, your next laptop, and even the sensors in your new car aren't just delayed. They are 20 to 30% more expensive to cover the waste. You won't see helium surcharge on your receipt, but it is there, baked into the inflation of every electronic device you own. It goes deeper than consumer electronics. Your health insurance premiums are already adjusting to cover those $100,000 MRI maintenance bills. But the real black swan is the frontier of the future: quantum computing. We are on the verge of a computing revolution that could solve cancer and climate change. But these machines require helium-3, a rare isotope that is currently trading at an eye-watering $25,000 a liter. If we cannot secure the helium supply, the quantum age will be over before it even begins. We will be stuck in a technological plateau because we were too short-sighted to manage a gas we once used for party tricks. The $12 trillion invisible trap isn't a single explosive event. It is the slow, freezing evaporation of your purchasing power. We are finding out the hard way that you cannot have a digital, weightless world without a physical, heavy-duty gas to keep it cool. The invisible gas has finally left a very visible mark on your bank account. In our desperate race for a green, high-tech future, we forgot that the very world we are building requires the elements we are leaving behind in the ground. The question for 2026 is no longer if we can afford to go green, but if we can afford to stay cool enough to survive the transition. If the world's largest superpowers are willing to risk war over the gas in a child's balloon, you need to start asking yourself what the true value of nothing really is.